in the comments. While that little video was playing, I was looking at other stuff. And so let me make sure I am live. All right. I can see that I'm live on LinkedIn. Hopefully it's working on YouTube and Facebook fine as well, because I am going solo today doing this. But I just wanted to pop on today to talk about something that I think is really important. Getting paid what you're worth. But how do you quantify something like that? It almost sounds kind of like icky when you think about it. And that's why a lot of people struggle with negotiating their salary. And more importantly, negotiating their comprehensive compensation package. So I am going to share my screen and show you a little bit about what it looks like. So when you go to my website, if you're an existing client, you click on this menu and you click on your library. If you're not logged in already, go to the library. And then all of the courses are here, right? So you go into this product and over here on the left, you've got the course contents, right? So you just click on it and you can go from one video to the next video and it's all in here. But if you're not my client, you don't have access to this, but it's still really, really important. So let me go back and stop sharing that screen and start sharing the slide deck, because I definitely want each and every single one of you unable to access screen sharing. Please grant. Okay, well, here we go. Let's try this again and see if it will allow me to. And if not, I'll just talk you through it. Okay, so that is not working, which stinks, because I would really love it if Restream would just allow me to share my screen and pull up this PowerPoint. Let me fiddle with it one more time. Windows, share. Chrome tabs. Okay, let me entire screen. Okay, I'll do it this way. So now you're seeing my entire screen. So let me put this on SlideShare. And let me make sure it's pulling up right for all of you, because I really think that when you're seeing what I'm talking about, it's going to be easier for you to follow along. All right, it looks like it is live. All right. So one of the programs that I do for my private clients is talking about salary negotiation. And we don't have the time today to go through everything in negotiating. So I'm going to skip through some of the slides, but I'm going to get to the most important things. One of the things that I think is really important for everybody to take into consideration is that there are so many books and blogs and articles and all kinds of advice that talk about negotiating your salary as a job seeker. But some of the costliest mistakes that I see some of my clients, some of you doing, is that you're not taking into consideration, we're not taking into consideration that negotiation begin before an offer is ever given. In negotiating compensation packages is far more complex than just taking into salary alone. So I've got this little mini workshop called Control the Negotiation Before It Begins. And in honor of Women's History Month, I am going to be sharing some of my favorite nuggets with all of you. So the ironic thing about negotiating is that there's tons of research and best practices on it, yet so very few of us follow it. For that reason, this training is extensive. But I'm only going to go high level today for you. So some of the things that we're going to be talking about are why salary negotiation is important, the 5-step framework for success, and putting the pieces together. So why are salary negotiations so important? Let's think about that. Uh-oh, school's calling. Let's think about that for a second. Let's say you start off your salary earning $50,000 a year instead of $55,000. And your annual increase is percentage based. In 2024, I've heard top performers, like literally people who are rated exceeds expectations on their formal performance evaluation, getting a 2% increase just because the market is still a little crazy. 2% doesn't even keep up with inflation. What does that mean for people who are earning 3s or 2s on their evaluations? Probably means that they're not getting any bonuses at all. Now, think about if you're like, I'm fed up with this, right? Bonus season is upon us. It's March, and you didn't get the bonus you wanted. You didn't get your annual increases that you wanted for like the past 4 years in a row. You're over it. You're ready to move on. That's an aggregated loss if you don't negotiate, right? So this discrepancy can be huge, and there's research on it. Literally not negotiating your salary could cost you on average $1 million throughout the course of your career, which is shit, right? Like, that's awful. You want that money in your pocket because for all the reasons, so you can live the type of life you want, so you can provide the opportunities for your family that you find important. Shoot, so you can donate to the causes that you're passionate about. You could travel around the world, whatever. But earning the type of worth that the value that you're providing to your organization, it's important. Now, there's a bunch of surveys out there. One of them found that 40% of adults in the United States do not feel comfortable with negotiating their negotiation skills, salary negotiation skills. Randstad found out that 60% of women had never negotiated their salary. So, hello, Women's History Month. Ladies, I hope that you're watching this. And even if you're watching this on replay, we definitely need to make sure that we're negotiating our salaries. We're leaving far too much money on the table, which contributes to the wage gap. And something interesting is 70% of managers expect salary and benefits to be negotiated, and 85% of people who negotiate are successful. One of the clients that I work with, she actually got a 358% base salary increase. So Joyce, when I had met her, she had just been laid off from the hospital where she worked. If any of you were involved in my recent workshop with JobScan talking about age discrimination, you will find that aging workers typically are on the chopping block. Maybe it's because their teams were eliminated, or their salary is so much more significant compared to somebody else who could come in and do something like that. She had worked for this hospital for over 20 years. She was so close to qualifying for retirement. And then she couldn't find work at another hospital. She ended up at a nonprofit. She was even working 3 other part-time jobs because her wage at the hospital was so much significantly different than at the nonprofit where she was working. And she ended up landing a role, increasing her compensation from that nonprofit to 358%, which was more than the hospital than she had previously worked for the past 20 years, and is back in a leadership role. And results like this aren't very common. In fact, most women who experience layoffs end up making less than they did when they were laid off, right? So most women are willing to take a pay cut after being laid off, just like Joyce was, just to have a job again. I'm not for that. Do not take less money. Men not only don't take less money, they frequently make more after a layoff. So ladies, I don't know what it is about this statistic, and if this is true for you, we got to get that out of our head that we're willing to take less. We don't have to. If you want to, if you're okay doing that, like maybe you're taking a step down, or maybe the role, has a better culture or something like that, where you're like, hey, the slight difference is worth it for me, fine. But massive salary cuts, I'm not with that. So keep tuning in, because I'm going to skip past these people for this 5-step framework. This is really what you came for. It is important for us to understand, where did that go? Our market values and organizations offer norms. So depending on what your space is, equity might be part of your compensation, or it might not. You might have a smaller, come on, Matt, stop playing with me. You might have a smaller base salary, but you might have a larger bonus structure, like sales, for example. I'm going to have to switch my mouse because evidently this little thing is too sensitive. All right, so step number 1, understanding your market value and offer norms. There are sites out there to help you with this. Levels.fyi, it'll tell you common sign-on bonuses, base salary, equity, annual bonuses based on the levels that you're at within the organization. PayScale and Salary.com are really common, and search firms also put out salary guides because they want to do the research to make sure that their clients that they're serving are having realistic salary expectations for the market so they can find top talent. Unfortunately, sites like Glassdoor and things like that often have inaccurate salary ranges listed by employees. So that might not be the best place to go. And I'm going to skip past this, but this is just Randstad's salary guide where it shows you entry level, mid-level, senior level. It's a really neat download. They do ask you for your email address when pulling it up, but there's lots of great rules on here for you to get updated annual data. So in step number 1, like doing the research to figure out what you're worth, a great way to do that is by networking. Be that talking to internal employees, asking them what their compensation structure looks like, or even talking to industry recruiters and finding out for them what trends they're seeing. I can tell you right now, what engineers used to make 2 years ago is not what they're making now. In fact, tech companies are laying off all those people that were brought in making more than their managers, laying them all off, reposting the roles at significantly less rates, and on site. So we're seeing a lot of that. Another way that you can look up what your market value is looking at states that have pay transparency. Colorado's one of them. Now, some of the other things that is going to be important is setting the stage for a successful negotiation. And like, as I'm skipping through some of these slides, it's just because like I'm just trying to get you the high level information here that's important. And you're not missing anything on the other slides. Like I just go into the weeds, and you don't necessarily need to nerd out because I'm trying to keep this down to like 30 minutes. But one of the things that you need to do is understand the company's process. As a job seeker, it's imperative that you ask clarifying questions every step of the way. So a passive candidate, they have no issues digging into salary expectations, and neither should you. They ask questions like, what is the timing for when you're looking to fill this role? What approvals are necessary to ensure I wouldn't lose my equity? Would my relocation be covered? I've earned 4 weeks of paid vacation time here. What is your PTO policy? And as a job seeker, the easiest thing that you can say is, hey, I'm talking to a lot of recruiters right now. I need to understand your process because you're one of the top companies on my list. I want to make sure I can manage my expectations appropriately. Or if you're happily employed and recruiters are still knocking at your door, you might say, I've got it really good here. I'm open to chatting, but would like to understand your company's policies and culture a bit better so I can manage my expectations. Those are all scripts that you can jot down and use for when you're in the process. it's important to have realistic expectations. So a recruiter should be able to tell you if the role is equity eligible, if equity is going to be paid out in a quarterly percentage or like a 3-year vested lump sum, like those golden handcuff situations. And there's so much more that you can negotiate above and beyond salary. The sign-on bonus, annual bonus, equity, relocation, commuter costs, equipment, continuing education, visibility, FaceTime with certain people. Just real quick here, one of my clients was able to earn a title bump before she even started the role, just in the interview alone. And then another one of my clients was able to get more flexibility in how he did his job to accommodate his daughter's schedule. So if you don't ask, you don't get. Closed mouths don't get fed. So it's really important to get comfortable having these conversations and knowing that other people are. Because if you don't ask, you don't get. And if it's a top priority for you, like if it's a non-negotiable, you want to have those conversations kind of further up front, so you're not wasting your time going through 8 rounds of interviews just to be told, oh no, you got to work on site 100% of the time. There's no way you can make it to your daughter's bus stop at 3:30 and then just jump right back on. You got to be on site. But there's certain things that you as a job seeker just have to either make changes in your life for whatever your company stipulations are, or just decide, hey, this isn't the right role for me, and keep it moving. One of the things that I think is really important is clearly identifying all players. Something that some job seekers don't know is that there's a compensation team involved in analyzing what is going to happen. And depending on what your equity stake is or what your bonus or relocation, CEOs are signing off on this. And so if you go at the very end, they give you an offer, you negotiate something crazy that's never even been brought up before, what type of first impression are you giving to that CEO if now all of a sudden you're adding in all this extra stuff when that should have already been addressed? So keep in mind, like, hey, recruiter, like I mentioned on our previous calls, I'll need to discuss this offer with my partner. I'll need to get back to you after the weekend. 48 hours typically works too, right? So if somebody's trying to press you to accept an offer immediately, set those expectations up front that you need some time to review this. There are going to be instances where you're going to be pushed because one of these key players that I'm talking about here wants you in tomorrow or something like that. One of the things that I'm not going to go too in depth on, but I think it's really important for you to do some research on your own, is psychological framing. So as a job seeker, you need to understand companies talk in packages, as in your all-in compensation is $200,000. As a job seeker, it's your responsibility to break that down and see what it actually means. What's base? What's bonus? What's equity? What's a one-time sign-on deal? The average tenure with a company is 4 years, and most companies have a 3-year vesting period. So if you leave before that 3 years, you never get that extra money. And so this can have huge discrepancies in the wealth that you're building for your family. So one of the next steps is taking the power seat. And what do I mean by taking the power seat? Everyone has different salary negotiation recommendations. Most of it is anecdotal. So everything that I'm going to be sharing with you is based on research. You can take it or leave it depending on what you think is going to work best for you. If you're up for a little homework, read Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, and this it'll explain everything on how to take the power seat. Basically, there's a whole bunch of research behind the power of anchoring. Anchoring is the initial number that's put forth. That may be in the application, that may be in the first recruiter conversation. I don't have time to get into it during this live, but you can definitely read that book or Google it and find out more information on how to anchor. I think it's really important that you share your expectations transparently, especially if you're at the executive level. If you are at the executive level, negotiation should absolutely be one of your key strengths, and you should definitely be doing it for yourself. If you're not willing to give out a number, even if it's just base salary, and you say we can work out the the details for equity or bonus or things like that, they're going to question your ability to lead, to be quite frank with you. And so step number 4 in the 5-step framework for negotiation success is responding to your formal offer. There's something called the ZOPA, Zone of Possible Agreement. That's the range between the highest price the company will pay and the lowest price that you're willing to accept as a job seeker. If you did company research, are excited about the opportunity after the interview process, and are taking an offer seriously, then this is really important for you. At this point, the company is invested in bringing you on. Some of these details should have also already been worked out when you were setting yourself up for success. But a word of caution here is that some recruiters are only willing to talk about total compensation packages and not break down the specifics. And so you want to make sure that you get those specifics broken down to make sure that that ZOPA is actually fitting for what you want. Because if they're including your sign-on bonus, right? If they're buying you out of $50,000 worth of equity, you're not going to see that $50,000 the next year, and that's gonna sting. So formal offer responses. Once you've gotten that formal offer, you could say, like on a call, right? Say they call, I'm so excited to give you, to let you know that we want to move forward with your candidacy, blah, 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 blah. Simply say, like, thank you so much for all your work in seeing this through. I'm very excited about this opportunity and want to look over the offer and chat things over with my partner. Could you please email me the details and I'll follow up within 48 hours. And then it's your job to counter offer, which is step number 5. And depending on how well you were at setting the stage and taking the power seat, they may have given you everything you wanted. And there may not be much wiggle room in the counter offer because they've already met or exceeded all of your expectations. But if you're still a little hesitant about doing that and you feel like you could get more out, I really hope that you counter offer. And here's a script for you. Hey, recruiter name, thank you for giving me time to review the offer. I am so excited about joining the team. The offer is below what I was expecting. Is there a way to get flexible here to get my base closer to 227 and match my 84K in equity? In my current role, I've led the global automation transformation, resulting in 52.3 million in cost avoidance and 237% increase in productivity. So I'm open to getting creative with bonus within reason. I've also reviewed the benefits package. I'm used to unlimited PTO. Are the 12 days hard and fast? Respectfully, your name. This allows the recruiter to come back, meet with their stakeholders, those key stakeholders, those key players that you need to figure out who are a part of the process of deciding your compensation package, and see what you can do there. So I'm going to skip a little bit. I'm going to put them all on the screen at the same time. All right, so putting the pieces together. When you are responding to your offer, show optimism, ask a question, make a request, show gratitude. Thank you so much. I'm excited that company name has selected me. I'm very excited about this opportunity. I have a few questions, and sure, I'll have more after reviewing everything, but off the top of my head, when does the bonus pay out, or whatever other questions that you have? I would like time to review the offer and the benefits package so I can thoughtfully make a decision. I know I was targeting a the higher end of the base salary range, and it's really important for me to not feel like I'm losing all my equity. Thank you so much for all your help with my offer, making this process so smooth. I will follow up within 72 hours with all the questions and thoughts so we can move forward with the offer. With that said, none of this is a replacement for your judgment. You have to put your script together based on your situation throughout the interview process. Some of the things that clients always ask me is, what do I put on the application? Can I put negotiable? Can I put $1? Most of the time it makes me put a dollar figure. Well, when you do the research, you can confidently put a dollar figure. Not when you're at the executive level, but when you're like mid to senior level, frequently like negotiations are smaller. And hopefully if you are in the executive process, they're not asking you that on the job description, but I've seen it. So just be prepared to put something. When a recruiter cold calls you, this is another common situation. They say, hey, I saw your LinkedIn profile. It looks amazing. Let's chat. What are you interested in? During this initial pre-screening call, I would ask like, hey, what are your salary expectations? As a recruiter, I need to know that. And in this case, you can use a lot of things. One of the scripts could potentially be, I've been having conversations with other organizations for similar roles in the compensation structure being socialized, and that I think is competitive is a 190 base with about $70K in equity, 25% bonus, and my existing equity being offered as a sign-on. When you go through nuanced things like that and can say, or even if you're just giving a range, it positions you as a competitive candidate. So often people are saying, I'm so worried that I'm going to outprice myself. But if that is what the market research is showing, you don't want to work for a company that pays its employees shit. So when you're putting the pieces together of this whole entire offer negotiation thing, ultimately you have to decide if you're going to accept or decline an offer. And sometimes you are going to have to be willing to decline an offer if it doesn't match your expectations. I'm going to be dropping a podcast episode with Michelle. How do I say your last name? Michelle Pop? Michelle? I'm going to figure that out. Sorry, Michelle. But anyways, she is a pricing specialist, go figure, right? And she was upfront with her compensation expectations in the beginning of the process. Went all the way through these crazy round of interviews to get an offer, a lowball offer, even though she was upfront. That is a huge red flag. She ultimately turned down the opportunity. Even though it had the title she wanted, she was upfront, clear about what her expectations were. They said that made sense. They came in so low under. That's not a company you want to work for. And just before I get to answering your questions, there's so many other things that you can do in addition to pay, base pay, annual bonus, commission, stock options, RSUs, profit sharing, sign-on bonus, sign-on equity, merit pay, timing of next pay review, health insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance, paid time off, sick leave, relocation, tuition reimbursement, discounting programs, your work conditions like hybrid, remote, responsibilities, start date, location, so many things. Some of the things that matter, like who your direct manager is, who your peers are, the brand recognition, the organizational culture, all these things matter. And let me try to escape out of here because I want to make sure I stop sharing my screen. Stop sharing. And see if any of you have any questions because I'm right at the 30 minutes. So one question is this being recorded and it will be available? Yeah, like anytime I go live, not only are you going to be able to see it in my LinkedIn activity section, which is like just below where you're viewing this right now. So right here in my activity section, you can go back and you can actually sort out the activity section by events. And you can see all of the previous events that I've hosted and you can watch them on replay. And if you're one of the people who are like, I don't want to RSVP to your events, Tegan, because I don't want my employer to know I'm looking for work. Don't worry about it. You don't have to RSVP. If you watch something no one's going to know you watched it. And if you're like really feel uncomfortable with how LinkedIn works and you'd rather not view it on this platform, I stream on my Facebook business page, which like I don't ever really use, but I still stream off there. And YouTube as well. So you can go to my YouTube channel and you can find all of these videos that I do on here. All right, let me check YouTube really quickly. Okay. All right. Okay. I am getting questions in my inbox. I'm going to respond to you in my inbox because I have over 100 messages that are currently not read. So I'm not going to do them right now because my time is up. I got to take my next client call, but I will get back to you. So anybody who has a question who doesn't feel comfortable making it public because you're in a confidential search right now, go ahead, shoot me a DM and I can get you more information. I know that this was kind of like a rush training and I skipped over lots of slides. This is some of the information that's available to my clients. And whether or not you're a client or not, all of this best practice research is available. I know how overwhelming it feels to sort through and figure out what's right, figure out what script you should use, because there's so much conflicting information out there, but the research is there. Find out what your market value is for your location, for your years of experience, for your education, etc. Put it together in a way where you've looked at comparable states that have pay transparency. And I know doing that is really difficult because sometimes the range is like a 6-figure range. But figure if you're earlier on in that, if you're more advanced in that, you can kind of get a number that way. And stop being afraid to talk to people about what they get paid. I know it's such a taboo topic. But until we start supporting one another, until we start being transparent about what we're paid. Now, I don't think that you should go to somebody in your company and be like, hey, well, what are you getting paid? And then get pissed off because you're making so much less than everybody else. But I mean, how many of us have had that happen? And it sucks. And then you're not happy at that company. You feel undervalued and you want to leave. But then you go to that next role and don't negotiate. Figure out what your market value is. Negotiate your salary, whether you're in a current internal role or you go externally. But when you can come prepared with market research, not I've got bills to pay, I've got mouths to feed. No, you have to lead with value. Show what value you're going to bring to the organization, and then the compensation should reflect that. Your market value is based on the value that you provide to the market. People who are solving the biggest of biggest challenges are going to have the biggest of biggest paychecks. And those of you who are in support roles, the paycheck is going to look a little bit different than the SVP. There's nothing wrong with that. But be realistic and be grounded in what you're asking for. Some sales roles are going to be more bonus payout or compensation payout versus base salary. And if you know you're a rock star sales rep, then that shouldn't be all too intimidating for you. But if you know that you're in a position where companies have been messing with your annual merit increases and your bonuses because of economic conditions, the grass isn't always going to be greener on the other side. So talk to people and find out what's going on. That should be all part of your market research when you're even doing company research to decide if you even want to apply to that role or not. And another note, I got on no makeup today. Well, I got on a little bit of a gloss. Ladies, show up. Show up even when you're having a bad hair day, even when you don't have time to put on makeup. It doesn't matter. Show up, take the calls, stop worrying about being perfect. I think it's really important, especially during Women's History Month, that we start letting go of some of the guilt, some of societal standards, some of the deep, scary stuff that we're conditioned to believe in, and start going after what really matters, what's ultimately going to make a difference in our lives. So I'm going to get off my ranting bandwagon, but I hope this was helpful. If it was, if you don't feel comfortable dropping a comment because you're on a confidential search, just shoot me a DM. I want to know if this is helpful, what you'd like to see more of. Next week, next Friday, I'm going to be hosting an audio room with Andre and Mac, and we're going to be talking about all the things that we go through as women in corporate America and how we can get through some of those challenges, how we can be better leaders to the next generation, how our fellas can be better allies. The following week on the 22nd, I'm going to be going live talking about the perfect storm. I work with a lot of women whose kids are graduating college and are now empty nesters, where for the first time in their life, they can really reprioritize the things that matter most to them. And then they're like, shoot, now what do I want to do? I know it's not this, but now what do I want to do? We're going to be talking about that. I'm going to be dropping podcasts. I'm going to be dropping all kinds of content this month to really help move us forward as women in corporate careers. And even though I'm on the outside as a consultant for a lot of the corporate organizations I work for, I still got your back and I still want to help give you tips. So please, 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 please message me with what you would find helpful so I can make sure I'm serving you. And with that, I'm 7 minutes over my time. I gotta go. Have a great day, everybody. Bye. And I'm going to be late putting on this video. Okay, bye. And see, ladies, this is how you show up perfectly imperfect. Just here to help support.